Well, hi everybody. So we're going to get started here. We're going to talk about some new features. If you have questions while we're going through, go ahead and throw them in the chat or put them in the Q&A. And Josiah will be awesome and make sure that I don't miss any of those. And in addition to that, if you have questions, when we send out the recording for the webinar, we're going to include links to the knowledge base. So if there are articles or videos or guides about any of the new features we're going to talk about and you need access to them, we'll have a link to those in our knowledge base. So, all right, let's get started. So the first new thing, it was highly voted on, was one of the most popular requests, was to be able to edit angles inside your drawings in the area module. And that is now a feature that is up and running. So when you open ActionFlow, if the angle is not 90 degrees, you're going to see those angle measurements in your drawings. And you will actually be able to click on that number and type over it just like you can your measurements for the sides. And it will update it and it will move that angle for you. So that is our editable angles. I know a lot of people really wanted that feature, and I'm excited that it's there, and I really hope it's helpful. And if I go through, I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. I want to make sure we have time for questions, but if you have a question at any time, go ahead and throw it up in the chat. Schedule configuration. You may have already noticed this. In ActionFlow, you have the ability to hover over an appointment on your scheduler and see some additional information about it. That's been reconfigured a little bit. So now if you hover over something in your scheduler, ActionFlow can bring up a box that will have the name of the customer. It will have the address of the job site or the city. It'll have the name, some basic information. This would be the things you already see. And then over in the middle, it's going to have the accepted date, the status date. It's going to tell you the current status of the job, and then any notes that it's pulling in from the job details. That will all populate right here in this center section. Then down here, we have that wonderful actions grid. It tells you what actions are scheduled, what date they are upcoming, or if they've already been completed, what date they were completed on. You can also see the user that is assigned for each of those actions. And then finally, this is brand new. On the right, you can also see all of the areas for that job. So if there are multiple areas, you will be able to see them and see how many areas that job contains. That's something that hasn't been available from the scheduler before. And I think it'll be really helpful for your schedule managers as they're moving things around to be able to see all that information. This particular feature is turned on by user or by role. And of course, that's controlled on the backside in the administration settings. So if you're an administrator in ActionFlow, you can go in and select the user and just simply check mark this box, and then they will be able to hover over those jobs and see all those details. If you have any users that currently are not seeing that, you can go back into the administration settings and check that box. I know several users that were able to see it before suddenly couldn't when the new version of this came out. If that's the case, you can just go back and check this box and it'll come back for those users who may have lost that visibility. Any questions so far about anything?
There's been a few questions about the scheduler being active. Can you
Okay.
also get into, maybe you're getting to this, just configure it, how to set up this piece? I know you can come back here and show the schedule details. What steps do they have to take to get this? Maybe just one more time.
Really, so if you want to turn on that visibility for one of your users, you can come back here to the administration and click the schedule details button so they can see that. You can also determine which what data shows up on that, and I'm going to really quickly pull up ActionFlow. So on the schedule here, on your schedules tab back in your admin, there is a new field and it's called custom fields. And if you click the edit button there, it's going to open this lovely little extra box. And you can go through here and decide if you want to include other fields from your job details. So if you want other fields included, you can turn those on and off here and decide what information you want to have populate in that box that opens from your scheduler.
And if stuff isn't, if that's turned on for a user and stuff isn't showing up on that scheduler when you do hover, it's because you need to come to this field and
Yep,
check
it is.
those. Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
We'll have documentation out for this as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Post webinar. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Unless there's another question hanging out there, I'm going to go ahead and move to the next feature.
Go for it.
Okay. This is one of my new favorites. So this is tracking phased jobs. ActionFlow has the ability to phase your jobs out. So if you have a job with multiple areas, but you need to schedule those areas separately for fabrication or template or install, you can phase those jobs out. And ActionFlow now allows you to track those phases. So if you have a job that's been phased, it's going to show you that right here. There's going to be a check mark that pops up so you know that job is phased, and you'll notice all of these are the phases of the same job. So the original and then all of the ones that are tied to it are all marked with the check mark. Mm-hmm. It will also show you which phase of the job this particular one is. So this one's got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Part of the reason that this exists is previously when ActionFlow, if you phased a job, it created a new job number, and it's still going to do that, but it also created a new job name. If you have ActionFlow synced with QuickBooks, this caused a little bit of a problem because QuickBooks would see each one of those jobs, even though they were phases of the same job. QuickBooks would see them as different jobs. So doing it this way with this new tracking of phased jobs, QuickBooks will now see all of those phases as one job. What that means is this name field, once it's phased, is no longer edit. I mean, you can edit, but you shouldn't. We want to keep those names the same. That's how QuickBooks knows that what's coming over all goes together. But it does allow you to see both of these on your job details or your job list grid up here, so you know if a job's been phased. And if you want to turn that on, it's done in your configurations. So you would go into your administration tab to your configurations and select job. And then you simply add a phase number or a phased and a phase field, and then add these two from the drop-down menu. And if you need more assistance with that, we'll have links to the knowledge base, but your account manager can also go in and turn that on for you if it's something you want to see.
Alicia, this is Roderick.
Yes. Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So in the early development stages with this, I had an opportunity to work a little bit with Reese and talk about this feature. And one of the concerns I had, and I've been talking to some customers who use phases heavily, is they want the phase name to be different. They live and die by that phase name being different, especially on commercial jobs. So if you've got a second floor, a third floor, you're doing units 1 through 5, and then you're doing units 6 through 10. That job name is so crucial.
Yeah.
So just be aware that, as you said, if you change that name, then we're going to not have the ability in QuickBooks to kind of keep them all tucked under the one job in QuickBooks.
Right.
So be aware that if you want to maintain the way you're doing it, you can continue to do that, no problem. However, be aware that if that phase checkbox is checked and you have a name there already, if you check that, it'll alter that name.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a win-win, but kind of win-loss, or depending how you manage phases in your job. So I know on the commercial side, people live and die by those phase names. So just be careful when you're implementing this. Be aware that there's some pitfalls, but I appreciate the feature, and I think it has a lot of merit in and maybe a lot of residential jobs. But I think in the commercial world, it's going to be has to be learned to be used correctly.
And Roderick, one thing I did for a client that I just turned this on for was we added in a custom text field that was called job description.
Yep.
That allowed them to go ahead and put that information in. It doesn't alter the job name, but it did. I'm going to go back a couple of slides.
But you won't see that in QuickBooks. So if you're looking in QuickBooks at a later date, you will not have any differentiation on any of those invoice jobs if you needed to look it up in QuickBooks.
That's true. But if it was just to keep it straight in ActionFlow, we just added a job description and moved it over here next to the name. So that's also an option that you can do.
Thank you.
But thank you for that, Roderick. Okay, so
We've got a question in the chat, Alicia. How does that work for invoicing from ActionFlow? Does each phase have its own invoice?
I am so glad somebody asked that question, because that's literally the next thing we're going to talk about. So in addition to being able to phase out those jobs to allow you to schedule them separately, ActionFlow has a commercial invoices and payments. Now, even though it says commercial, you can use it for any job that you do. What it does is it allows you to create or generate an invoice, or even collect a payment and apply it to multiple jobs. So it's in your reports or your task menu at the customer level. It's under reports, customer, and commercial invoice. And once you select which jobs you want to have featured on that invoice, or you can choose to have all of them on there. And then ActionFlow is going to generate an invoice. It's going to have a total for all of those jobs. And then it's going to break those down. So, and as you can see, these all have different job names. And then over here, once again, it's got the total. And if you've allocated payments to any of these jobs, it will pull all of those allocated payments into this sum of prior payments. And then it gives an outstanding balance over all of those jobs. So you can now invoice for multiple jobs at one time. Questions about that commercial invoice at all? Okay.
Alicia, this is Roderick.
Yeah.
And if you have, say, 5 jobs and you're using this, can you explain and show There'll be an invoice action on each job,
Uh-huh.
but where the paperwork goes is not in your typical job files folder. So can
That
you
is
just go
true.
through that, please?
I can. So if you have a job where you have multiple jobs that you want to invoice for, and you create that commercial invoice for all of those, I'm only going to create it for these. And there's also a commercial estimate that you can choose as well. And the first thing it's going to do is ask you if you want to run it for all the jobs, or do you only want to run it for the ones you've selected? And because I only want to run it for these 3, I'm going to hit no. It's going to pull this invoice up. I can see all of the different jobs that are included. You can go to your last page. You can see all of the total information. And if I email this out, or if I save it, it actually saves a copy in the customer files as opposed to in the job files, because it applies to multiple jobs. So you're going to see that in the files for the customer instead of down here in the job files.
But there will be an invoice export action, I believe, on each of the jobs individually, correct?
Right. I think that is correct.
Yeah. And then you'll have, if you've done the commercial invoice and it includes 3 jobs, you will have 3 transactions going over to QuickBooks if you're using the QuickBooks Sync tool.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware that it's not going to be one unified invoice. Each job is still responsible for its own invoice and its own payments.
True. Okay. So once you've invoiced for your commercial job, we want you to be able to accept a single check or a single payment for that job and be able to allocate it to multiple jobs. You can do this from both the customer tab and from the accounts tab, or the dealer, contractor, whatever the name of that tab is. So right now on the customer tab, once again, over here in the customer view with the task menu and then allocate payment, or from the accounts tab, it will have an allocate payment button. When you click that, it's going to open a separate screen, and it will show you all of the jobs under that customer or under that account that have an amount due, and you can type in the amount of the check, what the check number is. You can allocate that money across the jobs. And then you can even say if this is receiving deposits or if this is receiving a final payment down here with this drop down. Once you've entered that information, you can hit OK, and it will allocate that money and those payments to those individual jobs inside ActionFlow. And you will see a receive payment, receive deposit action under the jobs that you've allocated that money to. Any questions on that?
So far.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move us on. This is a new, the rest of these are not quite so involved. These are just some options that you have to turn things on and off. One of them is report categories. If you would like to have your drop downs when you go to reports, not quite so full, or if you'd like to have your different categories and then pick your report from a category, we can set those up for you, or you can set them up. It's a feature you can turn on and off yourself. It's done on your report configurations tab. You can actually have it just set the category defaults if you would like to, or you can go and set individual categories for your own reports. But that will allow you to have those reports show up in categories on those drop-down menus. And if you need any assistance with that, obviously your account manager is available. You can also look in the knowledge base and look up that information. And then we have monthly billing charges. So you can now see, if you're an administrator in ActionFlow, you now have the ability to see what your monthly billing charges are if you would like to. It's done on that administration page under Enterprise, and there is a new little drop down that says Enterprise Charges. And you hit the little calculator icon, and it will calculate exactly how much you pay for ActionFlow. This is something that's turned on by user. So if you don't see it, you can ask your account manager and they can turn it on for you. But it's just a very quick way to see what your ActionFlow charges are each month.
Oh, this is it might be going back a little bit, but
Okay.
Tiffany had a question. If there are multiple addresses under the same customer and you click the phase box, sorry, I just had a chat pop up. If there are multiple addresses under the same customer and you click the phase box, it changes the job name to all as the first phase. Can that be adjusted?
That is a question I do not know the answer to. So basically, if you have, you would be able to adjust the job site, I believe. Hold on just a second, Tiff. I would think you would be able to adjust the job address here. For if the different phases. So basically, are you saying the different phases are in different locations?
No. Yes.
Okay. So once you've phased it out, you should be able to put different addresses down here in your contact information for the job site.
I think that answers the question. I'll let you know if she
Okay.
adds any more.
Okay, we're going to go
Yep.
ahead, and this is my very last one. This is ActionFlow ticketing. So I know right now, most of you, if you have a question or an issue or you need assistance with ActionFlow, you simply send an email to your account manager. What we want to help you do is get assistance more quickly. If your account manager's out of town, then you're going to get an email back that says they're gone. You need to send your question to this person. And sometimes that results in some back and forth with a person you don't know. And it also requires you to create that email again. Also, if you have an account manager and maybe they're really, really busy that day, if you send in a ticket, other ActionFlow account managers can see those tickets as they can come in and can help grab them if they sit too long. So in your bar on the top right in ActionFlow, we have this new little ticket icon. If you click that, then you can send a ticket directly into ActionFlow. It will start out with your account manager. But if like I said, your account manager is busy or is out of town, another account manager will grab that ticket. ActionFlow has a goal of no more than 3 hours before you get a response back. Right now, we're running an average of 1 hour for you to get a response with our ticketing system. So I highly encourage the use of that ticketing system. And since we're here, if you need to schedule an appointment with your account manager, you can click on the little calendar icon and it will open a screen that takes you directly to your account manager's schedule. You can pick an available time that works best for you and schedule a meeting with them. You can also, if you want to reach out through email, you can use this icon to send an email directly to your account manager. You can do all of those things without ever leaving ActionFlow. And if you are not currently a member of the ActionFlow Q&A group. I highly recommend joining that group. You can get there. This is a great shortcut to that. And you can actually ask questions of other ActionFlow users and get answers back on things that other shops do that may work really well for them. Ask questions about basically anything from tracking inventory to how they pay their sales reps. You can put all of that information in there and you can get answers back from ActionFlow users. So those are all of those little icons up there and what they do. And at this point, if anybody has any questions on anything we've covered, let me know.
Alicia, this is Roderick. Can you go back one cell, please?
I'd love to.
Thank you. For those customers who are part of the Fab Choice team and
Sorry,
we
Roderick.
are your account reps, managers, etc., you will not see that ticket icon to the right of the word log out in Alicia's screen capture there. However, if you click on the email icon, it will automatically send that email to our help desk, and our response time is about the same in many cases, unless it's a large project, then it can take a day or two. But for the most part, if you click on that little email icon, you'll get straight to the Fab Choice ActionFlow help desk. So just be aware of that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good clarification. Tiffany had a couple more things. She said back to that original question with phasing. Different units at the same address, it changed all the contact info for the job to the same info as the first phase.
Oh, okay. Yep. Let's Tiff, let me look at that with programming and see if there's a way we can keep that from happening.
Right. And then she also said the ticketing system only allows access to the knowledge base, and the submit ticket option is no longer available. But that's
Josiah.
Maybe just send a screenshot of what you're seeing. Yeah, that would be most helpful. I've not heard that, but that's helpful to know, and we can get it turned on if that is the case.
She said I just tried it again to make sure that was still happening. So
Okay.
The other piece, just to add to the Facebook Q&A piece, is any announcements that we do in ActionFlow or updates on documentation that we've created also get posted in there. So if you're kind of one of those people that just clicks out of that announcement real quick, that's another good place to find that information and just see some of those updates. So just another little carrot is to join that group.
Yep.
I don't see any other questions in here.
Well, thank you guys very much for joining our webinar today. I really appreciate all of you. If you have any questions or if you think of a question later, feel free to reach out to your account manager or check out the knowledge base. And when we do send the recording, we'll include the links for all of these new features in that email that you'll get. So thank you guys.